Get in. Yeah, it's cold tonight. Where to, doesn't matter. We're going to Curitiba, capital of Parana, southern Brazil. October 2018. Picture this. A modern city, well planned, safe by Brazilian standards. The kind of place where parents feel comfortable letting their kids walk to school. And on October 9th, 2018, a 12-year-old girl left home to walk to school. Her name was Vitória Gabrielly Guimarães Alves. She left her house around 11:30 a.m. School was just a few blocks away. She'd made the walk 1,000 times. Her mother, Ivanise, expected her home around 5 p.m. Normal Tuesday. 5 p.m. came. No Vitória. 6 policial militar. No Vitória. Ivanise called her phone. No answer. She called friends. Checked with neighbors. Nobody had seen her. By 7 p.m., Ivanise called police. Vitória Gabrielly was missing. For 3 days, Curitiba searched. Police, volunteers, the whole neighborhood. And then, October 12th, they found her, in a wooded area, not far from her home, dead, strangled. Sexually assaulted Vitória Gabrielly was 12 years old. She'd been murdered on her way to school. The person responsible was eventually caught. A man named Ricardo Neves Fonseca, 22 years old, lived in the same neighborhood, walked the same streets, a complete stranger to Vitória, but not to the justice system. Ricardo had a history, previous sexual assault charges, previous accusations, previous red flags. He should have been in prison, or monitored, or at least on a registry. But he was free, walking the streets, hunting, and on October 9th, 2018, he saw Vitória, and he took her. Tonight, we're going to Curitiba. We're going back to October 2018. We're going to talk about what happens when the system fails to protect a child from a predator everyone should have been watching. You ready? Good? Because this one doesn't just make you angry at one man. It makes you furious at the system that let him walk free. Let me tell you about Vitória Gabrielly, the girl who was killed by a predator the system should have stopped. Vitória Gabrielly Guimarães Alves, born in 2006, Curitiba, Paraná. 12 years old in October 2018, 7th grade, loved music, loved drawing, dreamed of being a veterinarian. She lived with her mother, Ivanise, and her siblings in a working-class neighborhood in Curitiba. Normal kid, happy, social, close to her family. She walked to school every day, the same route, a few blocks, safe neighborhood, until October 9th, 2018. October 9th, 2018, Tuesday, around 11:30 a.m., Vitória left home to walk to school. Afternoon classes, normal routine. Her mother said goodbye. Expected her home around 5 p.m. Vitória never made it to school. Somewhere between her house and the school, someone took her. Ivanise expected Vitória home. She wasn't there. 6 p.m., still not home. Ivanise started calling. Vitória's phone went to voicemail. She called friends, called classmates. Nobody had seen Vitória at school that day. Panic set in. By 7 p.m., Ivanise called police. Vitória Gabrielly was officially missing. Curitiba police launched an immediate search. Missing child, last seen on her way to school. High priority. They reviewed the route between Vitória's home and school, interviewed neighbors, checked security cameras. One camera caught Vitória walking, alone, normal, no signs of distress, and then she disappeared from view. Police expanded the search. Volunteers joined. The neighborhood mobilized. Flyers, social media, news coverage. For 3 days, Curitiba searched for Vitória Gabrielly, and on October 12th, they found her. October 12th, 2018, 3 days after she disappeared. A man walking his dog in a wooded area near Vitoria's neighborhood noticed something. A body, partially hidden. A young girl. He called police immediately. Officers arrived, secured the scene. It was Vitória Gabrielly. She'd been strangled, sexually assaulted, left in the woods like trash, dead for at least 2 days, probably killed on October 9th, the day she disappeared. Forensic teams processed the scene, collected evidence, DNA, fibers, anything that could identify the killer. The autopsy confirmed strangulation, sexual assault, murder. Vitória had fought. There were defensive wounds. She didn't go quietly, but she was 12 years old, and whoever did this was stronger, bigger. She didn't stand a chance. Police launched a homicide investigation. They reviewed security footage again, looked for anyone following Vitória, anyone suspicious. They interviewed people in the area, sex offenders, known predators, and they found DNA evidence on Vitória's body. Male DNA, not in the police database, but a lead. Within days, police had a suspect. Ricardo Neves Fonseca, 22 years old, lived in the same neighborhood as Vitória, unemployed, history of drug use, history of violence, and critically, a history of sexual assault. Ricardo had been accused of sexual assault before, multiple times. In 2016, he was accused of assaulting a teenage girl. The case went to court. He was convicted, sentenced to probation. In 2017, he was accused again. Different victim, same pattern. That case was still pending in October 2018. Ricardo Neves Fonseca should have been in prison, or at least heavily monitored. But he was free, walking the streets, hunting. Police brought Ricardo in for questioning. At first, he denied everything, said he didn't know Vitória, said he was home that day. But police had evidence, DNA, witnesses who saw him in the area. Under pressure, Ricardo confessed. He said he saw Vitória walk into school, followed her, grabbed her, took her to the wooded area, sexually assaulted her, strangled her, left her body. He showed no remorse, said he didn't know why he did it, said it just happened. Ricardo Neves Fonseca was arrested and charged with murder, sexual assault, and concealment of a corpse. The trial began in 2019. Brazil was watching. Another child murdered by a known predator. Another system failure. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence. DNA, confession, forensic evidence. The defense tried to argue diminished capacity, drug use, mental illness. The jury didn't buy it. Verdict, guilty. All counts. Ricardo Neves Fonseca was sentenced to over 30 years in prison. Under Brazilian law, maximum time served is 40 years. Ricardo will serve decades, but Vitória will still be dead. And the question remains, why was Ricardo free to kill her in the first place? So what really happened to Vitória Gabrielly? Let's talk about the facts and the failures. Ricardo was a serial predator. Previous assaults, previous accusations. He saw Vitória walking alone, vulnerable, took the opportunity. This was opportunistic, not premeditated. Evidence. He confessed to seeing her and acting impulsively. Problem. If it was truly impulsive, why did he have the control to hide the body and lie to police for days? Ricardo had been convicted of sexual assault in 2016, was on probation, had another pending case in 2017. He should have been in prison, or monitored, or at least flagged as high risk. But Brazilian probation systems are overwhelmed, understaffed, underfunded. Ricardo slipped through the cracks, and Vitória paid the price. This is the most supported theory and the most damning. Vitória was walking alone to school, middle of the day, safe neighborhood, but predators don't only hunt at night. They hunt when opportunities arise. A 12-year-old girl, alone, no witnesses. Ricardo saw vulnerability and exploited it. Evidence: the attack happened in broad daylight on a residential street. After Vitória's murder, questions exploded. Why was Ricardo free despite previous convictions? Why wasn't he being monitored? Why don't Brazilian sex offenders have a public registry like other countries? The system failed Vitória at multiple points, and she's not the only one. Could Vitória have been saved? If Ricardo had been in prison for his 2016 conviction, yes. If probation systems had been monitoring him, maybe. If Brazil had a sex offender registry, parents could have known he lived in the neighborhood. But none of those protections existed, and Vitória walked past a predator who should have been locked up. Ricardo Neves Fonseca is in prison, serving over 30 years. He'll be middle-aged when he's eligible for release. If he's released, Vitória's family is shattered. Her mother, Ivanise, became an advocate for child safety and justice reform. She pushed for laws requiring better monitoring of sex offenders, for mandatory sentencing, for public registries. Some of those reforms passed. Some are still being debated, but none of them bring Vitória back. Curitiba installed more security cameras, increased patrols near schools, launched education programs on child safety. The neighborhood where Vitória died created a memorial, flowers, photos, a reminder, but the real memorial should be a system that doesn't fail the next child. The meter's off. Curitiba is quiet tonight, safe for most people, modern, well-policed. But somewhere in that city, there's a mother who will never see her daughter again, because the man who killed her should have been in prison, and he wasn't. There's an ancient principle about children and protection, that children are innocent, sacred, deserving of the full protection of society, that failing to protect them is a moral catastrophe. Vitória Gabrielly was 12 years old, walking to school, doing what kids do, and Ricardo Neves Fonseca saw her, took her, raped her, killed her. He was a known predator, convicted in 2016, pending charges in 2017. He should have been in prison, but Brazilian systems failed, probation failed, monitoring failed, and Vitória died because of it. There's a truth woven into existence, that those who harm children carry a weight that doesn't lift, that their guilt echoes forever. Ricardo will spend decades in prison, but the weight of what he did, that's eternal. And the weight on the system that let him walk free, that should be unbearable. I think about Ivanise, Vitória's mother. She said goodbye to her daughter on October 9th, expected her home at 5 p.m., and never saw her alive again. The guilt parents carry when something like this happens is crushing, even though it wasn't her fault, even though she couldn't have known. Parents shouldn't have to worry that a convicted sex offender is walking their neighborhood freely, but in Brazil, in 2018, they did. There's a warning in ancient wisdom about systems that fail the vulnerable, that societies are judged by how they protect the powerless, that failing children is among the gravest sins. Brazilian justice failed Vitória, not just because Ricardo killed her, but because the system gave him the opportunity. He'd been caught before, convicted before, accused again, and he was still free. That's not bad luck, that's systemic failure. And Vitória paid for it with her life. Hey, thanks for taking this ride with me tonight. This one hurts. A 12-year-old walking to school, killed by a man who should have been in prison. But Vitória Gabrielly deserves to be remembered, not just as a victim, but as a girl who loved music and animals and life. If this case affected you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that demand accountability from the systems meant to protect us. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Should sex offenders have public registries? What accountability do probation systems have? How do we protect children from predators the system has already identified? I read every one. Share this with someone who cares about child safety, about justice reform, about holding systems accountable when they fail. Next case, new story, same cab. Until then, remember, protecting children isn't optional, it's mandatory. And when systems fail to do it, children die. We owe them better.